Hello, I'm Sudarshana Starshine Star. How are all of you guys doing? I hope this beautiful Wednesday, January 7th, 2026, finds you very well indeed. I like to start all of my clips with the three opening prayers, which are in Sanskrit and Telugu, and they are short. It's the Guru Mantra, the Ganesha Mantra, and the Gayatri Mantra. And I do this to bless, uplift, protect, and purify you, me, and this clip. But before I do that, I command on the sacred blood of Jesus the Christ, Yeshua, to flow over all of us and all of our beloveds, all of our human beloveds and all of our animal beloveds, to bless us and keep us and protect us and guide us and love us and uplift us. Please, Yeshua, cast out the spirit of pain, cast out the spirit of fear, cast out the spirit of poverty, lack, scarcity, cast out the spirit of ill health, cast out the spirit of confusion, doubt, fogginess, cast out the spirit of rancor, bitterness, jealousy, envy, unworthiness. Jesus, please cast out all satanics and all satanic attachments. Please cast out all demonics and all demonic attachments. Please send your healing presence now. Please heal the wounds in our souls. Thank you so much, Yeshua. We receive your healings, your blessings, and your beautiful presence. Amen. Swaha. And I call upon Mother Mary to be here with all of us evermore clearly and presently and fully and lovingly and powerfully and divinely. Mother Mary, we know that you are a sacred divine aspect of Mother Father God, and we call upon your energy and your presence and your heart and your protective, encircling arms for all of us to be with us, even though we know you're always with all of us, now and forevermore. Thank you so much. Amen. Swaha. Now to the prayers. Om, 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 Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshvara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahmam, Tasmahi Sri Guruve Namaha. Om Shuklam Bharataram Vishnum Sashivarnam Chatubhujam Prasanavaranam Dhyaye Sarva Vignopashante Om Bhur Bhuva Suvaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhago Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Naha Prachotayat. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Wonderful. Well, this is going to be something unusual, listeners, because I put out a longer podcast than I normally do. Yesterday I posted it, and then it took me hours and hours for that thing to upload. I mean, really, hours and hours. It was ridiculous. Finally uploaded. And then I only found out about a half an hour ago, luckily, that a very sweet dear friend on my YouTube channel, which is called It's the Dazzling of the Light, or you can just go to YouTube and type in at Sudarshana Starshine Star to access my, I think it's 295 podcasts I have on there now, and all in a variety of topics, very juicy, spicy, and interesting, because I don't do the boring and the mundane. I also have a couple of videos there where you can see me talking. They're in a very short playlist category. You can just click on that and you'll see that. But anyway, this very sweet friend just let me know about half an hour ago, or I read his comment about half an hour ago, that the podcast was cut off halfway through. There's no sound for the second half of the podcast. And I was like, okay, well, let me remedy that. So I'm going to backtrack just a little bit to, and I encourage all of you to go listen to the podcast that I posted yesterday, which is called Spicy, Why We Went into Venezuela First, Juicy, because it is very spicy and juicy. There's a lot of intel in it, and it's so good. I couldn't put everything that it is in that title, obviously, but I always trust that for people that are meant to hear it, they will hear it. But God, I know it's disappointing if you go and you're listening to something and you're like, well, where's the rest of it? So when I see where it cut off, it's a little bit sus where it cut off. But anyway, let's soldier on. So here we go. This will be called, I'm just going to call it, I don't know, I'm going to have to put something in front of the title to let people know this is the same podcast, but it remedied so they get the second half. They don't have to listen to the whole first half, of course. But it will be that spicy, why we had to go into Venezuela first, juicy podcast. I'll just have to call it part 2. All right. So here's where I'm going to pick it up. What this is was Michael Jaco, who's an ex-Navy SEAL, and he's also ex-CIA. He was one of the few good guys in the CIA, and I don't know the percentage, but there are some good people in the 3-letter agencies, just like there are good people everywhere, even though the places can be really corrupted. And they talk about a little bit about that, about people that had to leave and stuff like that in his conversation with 107. And if you don't know about 107, that's not his real name, and he rarely shows himself on camera, but when he does and he makes some appearances, he's in a fat suit, he's in a face mask with a cowboy hat. He has deep intel, he's a deep insider. I've spoken earlier, a long time ago, about who he is, but I'm not going to get into that now because it's really not important. Just listen to what he has to say. And like I always say, we've all been tricked pretty easily, like humanity. We get tricked pretty easily. But when you hear the truth, even if you're resisting it, the truth has a certain ring to it. It's like a bell. There's a certain tone to it. There's something that you recognize on a gut level, even if your mind fights it and says, well, that sounds true, but I've learned that isn't true. The resistance that comes up when we try to take in new information that has gone against maybe a lifetime of misinformation about something or some beliefs that are really firmly entrenched. Anyway, so here we go. I'm going to pick up here from this juicy, why we had to go into Venezuela first. Spicy, why we had to go into Venezuela first, juicy part 2. Okay, and so this is, let's see, who's talking here? This is 107 talking. So he said, and by the way, I've mentioned it to your audience previously. Let me mention it again. The other person that is about to get an indictment handed down on is Ramaphosa in South Africa. And he'll be treated exactly as Maduro is. Him and all of his henchmen around him, who went in and allowed billionaires to rape and pillage in the Congo for a little bit of mining wealth, like they didn't have enough of their own in South Africa. But the cobalt was the key, and China's right behind it. If Ramaphosa is a genius, and he wants to show the world about what a genius he is, or innocent, or whatever it is he wants to say, getting on the right side of Trump as quickly as possible by stepping down, admitting that his election was as fraudulent as Biden's. South Africa is where the server farm, when they had to leave Venezuela because it was collapsing so bad, to use their electronic technology to flip elections around the world, including coming up on the U.S. 2020 election, the first test of the Serbia server farm, of which Brennan was half owner in Serbia, was the South African election that put Ramaphosa in office again, and that whole crew. So his election was as fraudulent as Maduro's. Everybody knows it, and we're coming for him. If he's smart, he takes a lesson from Maduro and finds a nice tropical place, an island. We don't want him anywhere where he can get out on land. Azores would work, someplace, very, very isolated. And he settles in and stays there, and he doesn't leave. When I was in South Africa here a few months ago, I'm telling you, the horror that Johannesburg has become compared to what it was 25, 30, 35 years ago. When you say S-H-I-T, hole, that's probably, you could have someone throw you under a latrine and let you live there, and it would probably be cleaner and safer than what Johannesburg has become. Just get one block outside of the main central part that's run by the criminals running South Africa. It's a horror. We're going to go after those guys. We're going to stop them because they're destroying South Africa and the rest of the region. And they were in partnership with Venezuela and China, moving drugs into South Africa and then up into Europe. We're going to go kick their effing ass hard with the pointy boots. Jaco, yeah. Juan, your intel is amazing. Worldwide intel network is unbelievable. And tell us, why are we going worldwide? Juan, oh, there's a Chinese Asian trying to take a picture of me. Uh-oh. And then he's laughing. The Chinese are after me. Oh, no. Anyway, she was trying to get close to me earlier today. Jaco, why would we have a worldwide network being collapsed when we have such problems? Because people are like, why are we doing this outside all around the world? We have our own problems here in the United States. Why are we doing it outside before we do it inside? Juan, that is a good question, but it isn't actually a genius question. The reality is so many of the problems here in America, for example, the drugs, the death of people by the fentanyl overdoses like that, this is the point of origin. We're not just taking out the trail. We're taking out the source. And that's why this is so critical at this moment in time. Trump has shown the resolve to go out to where these desperate places that all have got tentacles coming into America, trying to rip us apart. And, go at the source and see, go at the source and seeing it fall apart in these other places, these support mechanisms for the traitors within, literally. Where's the international support going to be as we disclose more and more of what Maduro was actually up to? Is there going to be support, including money and rhetoric and like that, to support the Clintons when the truth of what they've been doing comes out? I've been tracking someone in South America's movements for several years who's a very, 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 very bad player and protected by Western intelligence agencies. And this person is as evil as anybody on the planet. One of his key places that he was rallying from was Venezuela. Jaco says, wow. Juan, without that there, I suspect that he will meet justice somewhere very, very shortly. And this is someone that has a history here in the U.S., as he should. We don't actually want some of these people unalived. We want them to face justice. Jaco, yeah. Juan, but we'll take whatever we get, Unaliving kids and things like that cannot be tolerated. So, whatever. In the case of Maduro, just like Trump said, look, it could have gone a different way. He might not have survived the gunfight there, as we were there to take him. But we were going to take him one way or another. He was not going to continue to be a threat to Venezuela or the world. And, taking care of business, Jaco interrupts and says, definitely, definitely. So, Colorado, they don't have the Juan bursts out laughing. Oh, okay, Michael. When I first saw all the explosions, I thought they were busting Tina out. And listener, they mean Tina Peters. I thought that was Colorado. And then Jaco really starts laughing at that too. I thought, oh, finally he's going to go in. And by he, Juan means President Trump. Jaco, I thought that was going to happen too, Juan. I heard the helicopters. I saw the explosion. I thought finally they're going to go get Tina. And then Juan is really laughing. And Jaco's laughing too, saying, exactly. Juan, the thing, I apologize, brother, but you threw that softball in there. Low speed. I had to swing at it. I was looking at the first pictures of Maduro being escorted with Marines on each shoulder, right? Handcuffed. And then he's in the boat and he's got noise-canceling headphones on. He's got the blackout glasses on. Don't let you see anything. Those aren't the gamer glasses. You don't see anything around you. And he's all cuffed up. He's got a water bottle in his hands. He can't hear. He can't, there's nobody to talk to. He doesn't know what's going on around him. And I was thinking, well, gosh, I wonder if I could do an AI of, it sounds like he said pollen, or Bolin, but maybe he said Paulus, listeners. And then Juan is laughing a lot. And Jaco says, oh yeah, and they both start laughing. Juan, in the same situation, because I'm telling you, Jaco, I'm glad you said that. I was hoping you would go there. And Jaco's laughing. Juan, well, let me just say this to Polis, and listener, Polis is the governor of Colorado. Let me just say this to Polis and to a couple of the other people there in Colorado in lead positions. You know, Maduro had a chance to back up, back off, get the F out of the way, and he waited too long. He tried to get too much of a deal. He could have taken an early deal, saved everybody a lot of trouble and expense, and Trump would have honored the agreement, let him go. Those folks in Colorado think they're being smartasses. They're going to come up against Trump. He's just getting warmed up. And by the way, Jaco, yes, sir. And he's laughing. Juan, Venezuela and Maduro specifically and the whole criminal cabal that came out of there. You know, where's Dominion's headquarters in the U.S.? It's right there in freaking Colorado. Jaco, yep. Juan, you think Trump is just going to let you get away with this? You know, it's this seditious act on the part of the governor of Colorado attempting to undermine the authority of the President of the United States and the pardon. And listener, he means President Trump's pardon of Tina Peters. And Tina Peters has always been 100% innocent. And she's a grandmother with cancer in jail now, and she's been pardoned, but the corrupt beings in Colorado won't let her go. Juan, he's challenging President Trump. Who do you think is going to win this battle? You want to take bets? I'm giving really great odds on this bet that Trump is going to kick Polis's ass so hard. That star in his ass, I mean, he's going to put, you know, those silver tips like guys put on their pointy boots. Trump's going to put his cowboy hat on, put the silver tips on his boots, and kick Polis in the ass so hard that the left cheek is going to think it got hit first when the right cheek got obliterated, okay? Because we're not going to allow this type of seditious activity to stand, to undermine federal authority. And they want to do that. And I can tell you right now, Polis and the rest of the people there in Colorado and in these high government offices, they're in an echo chamber. They're listening to a bunch of yesterday's old moronic SHIT for brains. Asinine people thinking they still have Biden in office, who was put there through fraud coming out of Venezuela, right? Hello? One is like shouting that. Jaco, right. Now another thing is, too, the CIA is on the right side of it seems, right now. I know there's probably still, and then one interrupts. Well, you've got a few people there. Let me just add this. You were there, Jaco. Yeah. Juan, there's a lot of pretty amazing people there. There really is, who have amazing history. I just talked to one of them a few hours ago. One of my greatest friends. One of the greatest experts on that part of the world. Maybe the best expert on that part of the world on the planet right now, from an intelligence standpoint. And, you know, it hurt when you have put a lot of life into something, into some kind of a position, and then somebody comes in and mucks it up. I don't care if you were a janitor at Disneyland, and then you found out something horrible's going on there, and you were working there. It stains. It taints your soul. And it hurts that you've done so much, and then others come in and completely slime it out. Trump's found a few of the guys that he can trust, that Trump could verify, and they've come in there, and they did some amazing work. And the ones that are on the payroll to SES, and listener, SES stands for Senior Executive Service, and that is like one of the secret groups worldwide that is very high up and very much ruling and passing orders out from the satanic Illuminati, satanic cabal, Khazarian mafia, Jesuits, you know, really the evils that I call the controllers that have been for thousands of years allowed to run so much of the earth realm. SES is Senior Executive Service. And that are on the payroll to SES, that have sold their soul, both at the CIA and FBI and all the other agencies. Well, they're going to, you know, they better start thinking about their exit strategy, including the folks over at DEA. And listeners, I'm pretty sure you know that means Drug Enforcement Agency. Juan, oh, believe me, you've got some folks over at DEA and FBI and CIA, most of them rallying out of Florida, that really need to start looking at, you know, maybe Putin will take them. And he's laughing. China. Because they're not going to survive what's coming. The information on some of the stuff that they've got going on from other agency personnel who are just, they're not going to, they're not standing for it. They've cried out, a lot of them had to leave. In fact, over the last several months, I've got several people. I might have the largest number of anybody in the world out of FBI and CIA that are ready to go back to work. That left because they wouldn't be part of the crime, And it's not crimes, it's crime. It's just one big crime. All interrelated. Some of the stuff that the guys will tell you that they've, reported on, that they've whistleblown on, that they've put their careers on the line over is so stunning, so atrocious. You would never believe that U.S. citizens would even be capable of some of these crimes against the world. And they're going to get exposed. They're going to get taken out, We're going to clear it. And one's laughing. I guess I better bow out pretty quick here. Everybody's showing up to take pictures of me. One is saying that, meaning like a lot of Chinese people where he was talking, they're trying to take pictures of him. And then Jaco says, I know I was about to ask you about the Chinese and here they are. And Juan starts laughing. Jaco, so they're hot on you right now. You need to make an exit, I guess. Juan laughing. Yes. Jaco, but the Chinese, I think they're going to go the same way as Iran. They're basically going to collapse the bad guys in China. What are your thoughts? Juan, well, in many ways that already happened a bit. Some time ago, there's been a loss of power by Xi. The generals are running it. And I'll just say this at the end of the day, China's being run by the banks out of the city of London. Jaco, unbelievable. And listener, I've spoken about it so many times on my YouTube channel and other places. I have a great series called The Controllers on my YouTube channel. Just scroll down and you'll find it. Or the series called The Real Real, where I really talk about what's been allowed to run the Earth realm for so many thousands of years. And this, now it's pretty basic knowledge, but just for the people that don't know this, the Satanic Cabal had a triumvirate of power, or a triangle of power. The spiritual point of that triangle was in Vatican City with the Satanic Vatican. The Satanic Roman Catholic Church has always been satanic, and I can say that having been chosen to be baptized as a Roman Catholic when I was 11 years old, and at that time I really loved it, even though I saw very clearly from what they were talking about, I could tell something was quite awry. And in my catechism, the things I asked the nuns, they gave me some really incorrect answers that I've spoken about before that I'm not going to go into again, that I just knew to disregard that. But I loved churches and I loved all that. Even though, yes, drinking the blood of Christ and eating the body of Christ was a little bit sus. But anyway, so that Vatican City has never been a part of Rome, has never been a part of Italy. It has its own laws, its own government, its own mayor. It has had the white pope, the gray pope, the black pope. You only see the white pope in public. He's the least powerful. The black pope is the general of the Jesuits. That's the satanic army for the Vatican. And think of the Inquisition. Yeah. And the gray pope has been touted to be usually the most powerful position of authority on the earth realm, in this satanic world, because we know Mother, Father, God is most powerful. But in this terrible, evil, deluded, degraded, disgusting, satanic world of theirs, the gray pope, the last gray pope, because he was taken out by the white hats, was called Pepe Orsini. And the Orsini clan was originally but because the satanics, the controllers, the Khazarian mafia, they came out of ancient Sumer, ancient Babylon, then Sumer, and then they infiltrated into ancient Egypt and ancient Rome. They were the incestuous pharaohs and the incestuous satanic Caesars. And then, throughout Europe and into Asia and Central Asia and Africa and North America and everywhere, really. But these Orsini clan was one of the most powerful, always competing with the Colonna clan, because there are 13 satanic papal bloodline royal families out of Venice and Rome that have really been just the most powerful in terms of, you don't know who they are. They seem to be Italian with the names like a Baronessa, Ferranese, Medici, Aldo Brandini, Breakspire. You know, they have the. You think they're Italian? They're not really Italian. They're Khazarian mafia, and they came out of the ancient worlds that I just mentioned. But Orsini clan not originally, but in terms of Roman times, was the Maximus clan, the ruling satanic Maximus clan of ancient Rome, and why not? Since I'm just saying this, and California's kind of on the docket right now because we just have finally some white hats going in there investigating the incredible fraud of the state of California. If you look at the Californian flag, it has a bear on it. You know You know how it says in the Bible that we're not fighting physical. It's not. We're not fighting in a physical way. It's really we're fighting principalities. I mean, I'm misquoting that, but it really is. Foundational to know that the satanic controllers of this cabal, they just divvied up the earth realm. They just all divvied up into slices of pie for themselves. And the Orsini clan, or, you know, Maximus clan, claimed California as their property. So Orsini, from the Italian orso, means bear. Orsini means little bear. And the Orsini also used to be Rossini, and that means little red bear. And that connects to the Rothschilds. That means red shield. Khazarian mafia. You know, they're fake Jews. They're not Hebrew. They're satanic, but they pretend like the Khazarian mafia does. They put on yarmulkes and they pretend that they're righteous Hebrews and they go to temple, but they also go to their satanic temples and do all the satanic things in their home and in other places that you don't see. But the Rossini means, like I said, little red bear, and the Rothschilds took that name, and they are coming out of that clan. And the Rockefellers used to be Rothschild. They're all related. So anyway, I was talking about the Great Pope. Yeah, and there will never be another Great Pope. He was taken out, Pepe Orsini, and he's not around anymore. But anyway, so back to this triangle of power. So I already covered the Vatican. Washington, D.C., Washington District of Columbia, in case you ever wondered why District of Columbia. That's a long story that I've also covered on my YouTube channel about the Saint Columbia, what that means, Iana, Ishtar, everything else. It links into what the Statue of Liberty really is, and you look at Columbia books, Columbia University, Columbus. His name was really Cristobal Colonna. He's from the satanic Colonna family. Anyway, I've talked about this a lot, so I'm not going to go into detail here, but these are good things to know if you want to understand what's going on today. The Washington, D.C. was used by the satanic cabal. And it's so sad because Americans, we were so brainwashed, we didn't know that our military was being used to carry out these terrible satanic deeds, this satanic empire building, because D.C. has nothing to do with Maryland, the state of Maryland. It has nothing to do with the United States. It's a foreign invasion on American soil. And City of London is not the whole town of London. It's a 1 mile square financial district. That's the old Roman city walled within another wall. And it has its own, it's a city-state, just like the other two. It has its own mayor, its own laws. They're different and distinct. And if you would know the power of the City of London, that financial district, because all of the banks of the earth realm are housed there through the reserve systems, through the fiat currency, through this terrible Babylonian money magic and all this BS that one way they've put the big yoke around the necks of humanity for so long. The regents, the king and queen sitting on the throne of England, let's just say the last one, who's not around, obviously, but Queen Elizabeth was taken out before they said she was. King Charles is not around. Prince Charles never made it to be a king. You see a double there, lots of times CGI. It's a face mask, a Hollywood superb quality face mask, hyper thin, with a voice box technology. Lots of times it's CGI though. Anyway, Queen Elizabeth II, for example, when she was still around, once a year would have to take off her shoes and walk barefoot on a red carpet to the mayor of the city of London, which today is Sadiq Khan, and curtsy down, bow down, give obeisance to that mayor, because that mayor was more powerful than the king or queen of England. And that tells you about the satanic power coming out of City of London. That was the financial power, the corrupt satanic power over all the earth realm. So that might help you understand a little bit more about the British Empire building. Yeah. Anyway, why did I get on that subject? Oh yeah, because of City of London. So I just wanted you to know a little bit about that in case you didn't know. So let me go back to this. And then Jaco goes, unbelievable. And Juan said, the people they're pulling that off, the Hong Kong thing and all that. It's like the wildest James Bond movie you've ever seen. Spectres alive and well type of thing. But a lot of those networks are being compromised internally under their own weight, because they get so unwieldy and then they attack each other and it's a fight for power all the time. But China's got enough going on that I would be very, very hesitant to say that it's going to collapse, even like the Soviet Union did. It's a much more complex monster, and it's something where those banks that we're dealing with globally still feel that they have options available to them. And some of that goes into the silver and gold and like that. Jaco, Melania wore her silver dress. Was she doing the semaphore thing? And one's laughing. Hey, language is a semaphore, man. Can you even come up with a better script than that? As I've been telling people all the way along, and he means President Trump, he sends messages right in plain sight with Melania's dress, right? So there she begins the new year with silver. You can't even improve on that script in the background. By the way, Jen and I, and listener one means Jennifer Mack. You can get the merch that he's talking about over, I think it's at jennifermack.com. So one says, Jen and I just released early this morning, your time, late last night. We posted our 2026 coin. It's The Called from our movie, The Called. Jaco, oh, beautiful. One, the 5th year anniversary is coming up in just a few weeks. And of course, it's all about the elections. Remember, President Trump called the American people to be present when the electors were going to vote on January 6th on the Biden victory. That was a fraud on America, again, based on stuff that came out of Venezuela and Maduro. And so we had the largest gathering of American people ever in Washington, D.C., depending on who you want to listen to. And listener, I'm interrupting in to say, if you want to hear about Venezuela and Maduro and what I just said, you have to go back and listen to the first half of this podcast that I said that I put up yesterday. It only goes halfway and then it cuts off. But you can hear the first half of it and you'll learn about that. Depending on who you want to listen to, somewhere between 1.5 and 2 million people showed up in the dead of winter. Yeah, bigger than any other assemblage of the American people. And by the way, they had 500 operatives. He's talking about at Jan 6 in Washington, D.C. And, they had 500 operatives from the intelligence agency that they've acknowledged, direct employees and contractors there to manage the crowd into this. Jaco, I was like, there's some shady stuff going on in this crowd. One, oh yeah. Jaco, they impeded everything so you couldn't send anything out. One, yes. Well, think about this. What they intended to do. They didn't have enough people, even with those numbers, because the American people so overwhelmed them that they couldn't pull off the shenanigans, the fraud that they had intended to cause, the riot, and everything else. Jaco, yeah. And the people, we knew there was going to be some mischief going on there, so we probably would have had 4 or 5 million there if there wasn't any known mischief coming. One, that's very true. Because a lot of people stayed away because they just knew. Jaco, yeah. One, something was coming, they just knew it. Jaco, you and I are like, there's going to be mischief? I'm going. And then he starts laughing and one starts laughing with him a lot. They're really cracking up at that. One, I was there. Jen and I were there, as the movie shows. And by the way, I think Jen has a link up for the movie. It had about 5.5 million views. Jaco, wow. One, remember how hard they were shutting things down? So we said that we gave it to the world for free, right? Anybody download and share. So people, as fast as they could take it down, it got put up by other people. But I had about 5.5 million views To commemorate that, we've got the new coin up for 2026. I've got probably the lowest price it'll ever be for right now. I know it's a proof quality. Jaco, good. I'd love to get at least 10 of those. That's going to be cheap in the future because I think we're going to see 5K plus dollar silver in the future, next couple of years or so. Juan, by the way, go look up the atomic weight of silver. And he's laughing. Jaco says, 107. Juan laughs, and Jaco laughs too. Juan, I've got a little bit of a connection there, and I expect, just as you said, that it will go up significantly more yet. That's the other part of the fight. It's the elections, honest elections, and honest money. That's where, and then Jaco interrupts him. So that would help bring down the city of London. Do you think so? That's the real culprit. I joked on my show yesterday that maybe we need to just go in and BOMB, the city of London. But I don't think the Brits would like that so much. So we're not going to do that. But the only other way we can take that down is to take away the money. And then, listener, I'm going to allude to this just really quickly. You probably already know it, but how the Bank of England got hijacked by the satanic Khazarian mafia Rothschilds was in the Battle of Waterloo. There was horses gave the messenger by horse back then, and the Rothschilds cheated, and they got a head start and sent in the fastest messengers pouring into London with terrible news oh, Napoleon won, England lost. So right away there was a run on the bank, and people were trying to sell all their bonds out of the, as everything was crashing, as the value was going down out of Bank of England. But the Rothschilds, because they lied and they knew Napoleon had lost, they just were buying up everything as the value kept plummeting. And then by the time some correct horseback messengers came into London and said, no, Napoleon lost, not Nelson, Napoleon lost, England didn't lose. So then it was too late. Then Rothschilds had just co-opted everything, and they owned the majority stock and bonds of Bank of England. So yeah, that's their little satanic craziness that they did there. And anyway, so Juan says, let me just say this. The British people, I really enjoy British people all throughout, and Jaco goes, me too, all throughout the Commonwealth. There's so many beautiful people and places. However, there is a criminal cabal running the city of London, the old Roman walled city within the city, where all the 100 main banks within this international reserve system are domiciled. And of course, a lot of people talk about the BIS, B-I-S, the location in Switzerland, where everything's resolved at, Bank of International Settlements, like that. But in Basel, but the core to it is the city of London. And that's the other part of the fight, because they're enslaving the world with their reserve policies, their fiat money. And so going back to honest money tied to actual tangible materials, silver and gold, is key to getting us back on track across the world and getting the world running again, bringing energy back online. By the way, who was in charge of the whole green movement? That's the Brits. King Charles, that whole club to try to get the world to shut down the ability to produce and run and pick and choose the winners, and turning on the oil back in Venezuela, getting all the oil prices down to where they can be so that the world can go back into a productive phase again, getting out of the Jimmy Carter cardigan sweater crowd, fireside chat with the sweater on because you can't even have the fire up warm enough to keep the room warm, right? You got to have a sweater on top of it. By the way, let me add one more thing. Quote, Biden, end quote, was horrible. But most all of these problems, these globalista used to have puppets. One of their early puppets that people don't want to hear about, or because the propaganda is so hard, so strong. But before it's all over with, you're going to find out a lot of these things happened. Got their initiation under Carter. Jaco, yep. Iran went off the rails. Juan. And these globalista crowds, so that's going to come out. SES was created under Carter. Bush is the one that put the whole package together over at CIA as a result of the church committee hearings, and then the Inspector General's office cutting off the flow of funds. That had a bit to play with. You'll find out eventually over at Justice Department. Tina not getting out. And some shenanigans going on in the background there. That all came under Carter. And then the hostage rescue mission showing the weakness of America with its failure. Reagan brought back Morning in America, Dawn in America, and stuff like that. But he didn't have the depth of support needed. And I don't think we fully understood about that, Jaco. Because, Carter had just destroyed the American military so much that it was amazing that Reagan even got anything done. We're looking at taking down Noriega in the Panama invasion. It was amazing that we were able to do that, because it was a fast workup to get the military back up to speed. One. So you and I probably had a similar experience. Guys that were around from the 60s, 70s, into the 80s. Jaco, yeah. One. That were truly old school within the intelligence community. They were there with the church committee hearings when they happened, the embarrassments, the exposure, things going on there. But then when Carter, right off the bat, early in the administration said, we're going to gather our intelligence with satellites, and so we're cutting off all the human intelligence. We're not going to pay off any of our spies in Iran, etc., the mullahs and all of that. We're just going to cut that all off because we'll get what we need from listening devices, from satellites, etc. And he decimated the intelligence community. And the ones that were left were guys like Brennan. Okay? Jaco says, wow. One. And you have a lot of guys that stepped out and said things. Most of them didn't say it in public. But, to guys like you or I, they had a thing or two to say about what was going on. And all of that was right. Everything has come true. I hear people's voices ringing in my ears. This is going to happen and that, but I won't be around to see it. But you will if you live. Juan chuckles. So now we're seeing the come around on this. And Trump, if it wasn't for Trump, like Trump said, he would never have let the seizure of American oil companies' assets across Venezuela happen the ways it happened under the Bush administration, Clinton administration, Bush administration. He'd have never let that happen. We're going to go back and reimburse people and let them have back access back to their properties and leases. And until we're paid back, and it'll be a message to anybody else who wants to come in and try to pull the same thing out into the future. They may have got away with it for a while, but America's going to come back. And the exposure of the frauds in the election system will stop a lot of this mischief for a very long time. And by the way, just to reiterate something I said in your last show, Trump is going to declare a national emergency related to elections and order. And all the voter rolls, Jaco, yep, all the voter rolls have to be completely redone within the context of that national emergency. Nobody's going to defy them. And then hand count paper ballots, no machines. Why no machines? Because of what happens. Smartmatic into all the other election machines, the collusion of intelligence agencies across the world, internal traitors, that's all going to come out. We're going to have a hand count paper ballot 2026. And this is the first big move to bring the surface, to bring this out into the open. Jaco, to basically expose all that, I believe. Then we're going to already starting to see the corruption is so widespread. It's the Democrat method of operation to come in and do fraud. We're going to see trillions of fraud all across the country. Well, let me add, though, in fairness, a lot of Republican rhinos, and listener rhinos, RINOS, that stands for, I'm sure you know it, but Republican in name only. And Jacob interrupts him, sure. And Juan said, when I first was dealing with this back with the Collier brothers in Florida in the 80s, I first met him in 79, Jim, and then later Ken, the Collier brothers with vote scams. In fact, one of my guys, Mark Cook, who does the hand count paper ballot roadshow, Mark Cook has posted over on his site the last interview of Jim Collier. And if you listen to it, it's like rehearing about elections right now. Oh my gosh, it's just stunning how we nailed it 30 years ago when we didn't even know all the rest of the stuff we know today. When this is all over, Jim and Ken Collier, they created Hawaiian Tropic suntan lotion in buckets and sold it bottled on the street. Great guys. Juan talks about his history with them a little bit. I'm not going to go into that, but then Juan comes back and says they should be honored when we honor people like Tina Peters and many others. Oh my gosh, the number of great Americans that have shown up to challenge the vote fraud, these vote scams across the world, Jaco, with their own country, with their own money. I applaud them. I agree. Juan, yeah. And I don't know how, but just like Tina, the personal cost there isn't any money that can take care of that. But there is some remuneration that needs to happen. And by the way, justice, one thing that has to happen in Colorado, and it's one of the things I'm going to deal with here at some point. We're getting close. We've gathered together $250,000 to have a recount on the primary campaign for Tina when she was running for Secretary of State. And I was the one that asked her to do that. When I take it back, no, he says, I take it back. It was the prosecutor made her in order to get bail. Down from like $500,000 to $25,000. She had to agree to remove herself from office. Totally illegal. Totally illegal. I mean, that's got to be addressed criminally, I think. I said, no, you've got to run for Secretary of State. And she did, in spite of the fact that they were talking about revoking her bail for doing that. And then we had to come up. You know, we knew we won the primary. They frauded it. Got $250,000 for a recount. And then the state of Colorado ran the most corrupt, crazy, stupid recount you can ever imagine in your whole life. Mark Cook was there, present, saw it all, got the documentation. We're going to go take that whole state to court on the way they did stuff. They think they can get away with SHIT. They're going to find out that just like Maduro, you should have taken the deal, you dumbasses. Jaco, yep. F around and find out. And Juan laughs. And Jaco says, I mean, there's so many different things that, we can look at. Tina Peters, remember she flew into Mike Lindell's in an event where they were disclosing election fraud? And they told her if she went to that, they would arrest her when she came back. And she went anyway. Juan, well, and the first time I met Tina in person was after that presentation. And we spent about 5 hours together. Jaco, wow. Juan, kind of going through what I expected to happen, etc. And the context was the equipment that was used to actually record the stuff off of her machine. Was equipment that I provided to that contractor. So I had a little skin in the game there. Jaco, nice. Good job. And he chuckles. Juan, the end result was all of this drama. I would not have advised her to do that presentation that day, because I had asked Mike to do a fly around and hold off. When just a couple days after, he announced that when we were both down in Dallas at an event, we were both privately in with Trump and talked, and I says, gosh, Mike, I don't think you understand it. Excuse me. And I knew where the information was coming from. Jaco, yeah. Juan. But I do think on the whole that it was a plus. It was a plus. I wasn't happy about the way it went. But when you look back at history and eyes on and the tension level and like that, I think it moved the ball forward. And that's undeniable at this point in time. So even if you had problems with the way it happened, it's in the history books now. And we're on the way to some amazing wins. Juan says he has to go. Jaco, great Juan. Thanks a lot and safe travels. Juan, all right. Appreciate you. Appreciate the whole audience. And by the way, say a prayer tonight for Tina. Jaco, definitely. Juan, it can't come too soon. It's coming. Can't come too soon. And thank you to God Almighty that we have Trump in position and these things are taking place now. This is critical stuff that I've waited my whole life for this. Jaco, yeah. Juan, to start turning the corner. Let's go get him. Jaco, yep. Booyah. So that's the end of that, listener. And then here's something short I'm ending with. Donna Hawk on X at Donna Hawk posted, Bravo, Marco. Bravo in an incredible moment. Secretary Marco Rubio declares the Western Hemisphere is ours. Russia, China, and Iran must get out. Welker. Why does the U.S. need Venezuelan oil? Rubio. Why does China need their oil? Russia. Iran. This is the West. This is where we live. They are not going to come from outside our hemisphere, destabilize our region in our own backyard. And U.S. have to pay the price for it. Not under President Trump. This is deeply destabilizing stuff. It's not going to continue to happen. Rubio's stance aligns with the 2025 National Security Strategy's Monroe Doctrine 2.0, a long overdue correction to decades of subsidizing foreign decay. The Western Hemisphere isn't a charity project for global freeloaders. China, Russia, and Iran exploit weak regimes like Venezuela's to funnel drugs, terrorism, and anti-American influence through our backyard. The oil quarantine, Rubio mentioned, isn't just about energy. It's leverage to dismantle narco-states and reclaim regional sovereignty. Critics whine about, quote, destabilization, end quote, but real destabilization was letting hostile powers colonize our hemisphere, while DC bureaucrats cashed checks. America first means dominance, not apologies. And Kimberly Q42 on a YouTube short wrote, if you think the Libbies are insane now, wait until they find out that Nicolas Maduro colluded with the DNC to rig the 2020 election, and the military put all that effort in to get him out alive for a good reason. Hello, grand conspiracy to destroy Donald Trump. Libbies have no idea what's coming. And I say, hear, hear. So thank you for listening. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And I hope you appreciated my effort to get this out to you guys. I had to do it twice, but I love doing it. And why not join my YouTube channel? Thank you in advance. I close all of my clips with a closing prayer in Sanskrit and Telugu. And what I'm saying is, God bless all beings in all worlds. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. God bless you and yours. I'm sending much love and big hugs to you and yours. I'll see you when I see you. And bye-bye for now.